Welcome in, everyone. RFU Refugees Podcast. Ted here, Jon here. Here to wrap up another week of soccer for DC United and the Washington Spirit. I think that's they played soccer. That's about all the positive things we could say. We could talk about DC Power. They won. They won over the weekend.
Did they?
Yes, I believe they won. Or they were leading at one point. I have to go back and look. They actually were like the only team to actually lead. Let's see.
Loudon won.
They did win
in stoppage time in the Jägermeister Cup, which is a thing that exists.
Yeah, no, the Kickers played in that.
Is Richmond? Are they still in it, or did they get?
Yeah, they're still. Well, it's a group stage. We're in like the league phase, so they'll play Loudon at some point this year.
I can't wait.
They'll play Loudon at some point
in this thing that is definitely a real cup.
Yeah,
it's just as real as the Leagues Cup, but with a better sponsor.
By the way, the DC Power did beat Brooklyn FC, their first win since November 23rd.
Comes to the Steve Birnbaum effect, where both his teams win.
Exactly.
That's all that happens. Ted, how was your weekend?
It was good, man. It was sitting around watching Liverpool win the Premiership. Sorry, guys, and wasn't feeling too hot this weekend. Just found out today I've got COVID, so that's lovely.
Hey.
Just a lovely little.
It's like you're a hipster to get COVID again now. Like everyone, like no one talks about it anymore. Like, hey, I got the cool new thing that no one's talking about anymore. It's COVID. It's back, baby. And
it feels different. I remember the first time I got it felt terrible. I felt really bad. I felt like I think I've got it. Like, and this time I was like, it just feels like it feels like a cold. That's all it feels like. I'm not coughing. I'm not doing any of that. It's just a lot of
Well, that's an improvement. It does not feel like less like the Black Death. That's good. This weekend worked on Saturday, which was cool. After I flew back from Charleston from other work, I woke up at 4:30 to catch a 6 a.m. flight to get back to then go to work. So not a big fan of that. And then Sunday, I did a whole bunch of nothing because it was getting ready for stuff today. Happy birthday to my dad, 82 years old today. Mm-hmm. Tomorrow, if you're listening to this Tuesday, as you're listening to it, happy birthday, Olivia. Be 5, which is wild because that means I'm 40 next month, which is also wild. All these numbers do not make sense to me. I told my dad, I just talked to him, not that he ever listened to this show, but I told him that he spent, for whatever reason, tell me if this is the case with your parents. Well, my parents are older than your parents, but like I have a number that sounds right to me from my conception of how my dad does, and it has not moved in almost 20 years. I'm like, yeah, 67 again. I remember that. I remember that one. I remember that birthday. That one makes sense to me. 82 doesn't. So it's a busy week. It's a chaotic just time period. I'm recording an album next week on Thursday for songs that I have not written yet with other people. So, and then, we had a great soccer to watch this weekend.
Great soccer.
So,
beautiful soccer.
Riveting soccer, the best soccer that could be. All I know is that I'm very anticipating the return of Ted DiPietro to score 18 goals in one game, making the most lopsided defeat in DC United history. That's what I'm expecting. Although I remember speaking of lopsided defeats, I think I wrote the number down here somewhere. I think I wrote down 22-3 was the score differential since 2021.
Yeah.
And now it is 25-3 with no more points for DC United. How'd that work out? I think it's even worse if you extend it back further, which is what Steve did. Goff did. Call him Steve like he's my buddy. He took it back from like 2019 or 2017, and the numbers get even worse. It's really a football score, no matter how you slice it.
Yeah, it's bad. It's been bad against bad against the Philly Union, and these are two sides that when they meet, it's very clear. You have one side that has committed to an identity. They've built through the academy. They've realized they can't. Sure, they could go out and they could attempt to maybe spend money. I think the owners. I'm not going to say the owners of Philadelphia Union are poor owners. I think they're extremely wealthy people to run a MLS professional soccer team. But they said, you know what, we can't compete with them, so we're going to build through the academy. We're going to know who we are. We're going to have an identity, and that is reflective in the scores that you see each year that they come to play DC, year in, year out.
And they got more money than our owners do. So even if they don't have that much money, they were at least realistic about their situation. And, they have not signed any former Juventus midfielders who were recently acquitted of doping. That's not the way they went. The Union went a different way. Maybe the DC United is going to go a different way than that. Who's to say? I think that's the most interesting news. So why not even pretend that talking about the 3-0 loss is more exciting than talking about the Paul Pogba rumors? Let's just talk about that from the start. That's the most exciting thing. So Steve Goff had an article today that said, Well,
I think we should. I think we should. I mean, we should talk about the game.
We will.
You're ruining the rundown in my head. But it's fine. You know what?
It's in your head. It's in your head, Ted. I didn't see it, so I can't read your mind yet.
Fair enough.
So I don't want to bury the lead. The people are after last week are going to listen to the show for 7 minutes. So while they're here, before they turn off and go listen to something more exciting, because that would be almost anything. There was an article that came out by Steve Goff in the Washington Post saying DC United is in conversations or has had conversations with Paul Pogba to sign with DC United this summer. This is notable for a number of reasons. One, we know we have an open DP slot. We know that offers were already made. That was said by Troy in press availability a couple weeks ago. I don't know if this was the thing that they were talking about, but I always sensed kind of a weird vibe in like him being asked the question about, are you going to sign players? And his answer always felt a little loaded to me, the way he was talking about, there's players, we need more talent and, offers have been made. It did not sound very much like, I don't know. Now with this bit of information out there, like with subtext or context, it feels more like, I don't know that he's super excited about this. But anyway, the offer, I don't know if offers are made, but the article, if you've read it on the Washington Post, says that the sources close to the team or sources close to those who know say that Jason Levian really wants this deal done. He really wants to see Paul Pogba come in and play for DC United. How does that make you feel, Ted, as you find this out?
All right, let's get it out of the way. Paul Pogba, five years ago, fantastic talent, one of the premier talents in world soccer. Maybe have to go back a little bit further. I mean, obviously 2018 World Cup, pre-COVID, burst onto the scene, so he's a World Cup winner. Had a lot of name recognition. I think that name recognition is completely gone at this point. He's been, like I said, hasn't played in 18 months. I think went to Juventus, didn't do a whole lot, got busted for performance-enhancing drugs, banned for 4 years. That then was reduced to 18 months. But still, like a player that is, talent-wise, is a tremendous talent. The only question is, he's been away from the team. He has not had the best track record at the club level. This very much feels like a desperation move. And the one thing, the one thing that's interesting about the comments is the source. And I don't know if this is like, if this is like, if we're reading too much into this, maybe we are, I don't know. But the one quote that really got me was Jason. It isn't the team is trying really hard or the organization is trying really hard. It's very specifically says Jason is trying hard for Pogba. And I feel that's a very pointed statement. I don't know if that, I'd be curious to know who that source is. Is that Ali Mackay being like, yeah, man, Jason's the one pushing this thing?
That would be I'm looking for a new job type of blind quote if that were the case.
Yeah, but that's what it feels like. It feels Dan Snyder-esque, I should say, Dan Snyder-esque. It feels like this is a owner that is suddenly panicking because things aren't going well. And he's looking for a splash. He's not looking forward to having to give 30% back on season tickets if this team doesn't make the playoffs. This feels very much like maybe there's a little bit of panic in the locker room. It certainly sheds light into why this team moved to the 3-3 model, because Pogba's a free agent. He can sign. There's no limit on how he can. There's no transfer window. There's no nothing. He could announce that he's coming today, and he could play whenever he gets his visa or international transfer certificate, what of that. It seems now likely like this is why maybe they held the 3-3 open, because this deal was working out, and they certainly didn't want to let that down. Now, that being said, I'm beating around the bush here. Do I want Paul Pogba on this team? No. I would much rather this team go out, grab a younger player, grab a player who's been playing soccer, grab a number 10 chance creator, even if the ceiling, the potential ceiling, because I mean, there is a higher ceiling with Paul Pogba. Paul Pogba comes here, plays up to the form he played in the World Cup, even just like, I would say 50% of that, he could be one of the best attackers, best, central attacking midfielders in Major League Soccer, best chance creator all the way around. But the question will be, can this team actually get him to that? I think the chances of that are very low. I still think the chances of this are extremely low. I am willing to bet that Ali Mackay is sitting on the side and says, you know what, Jason, yeah, you go out and do that. I'm going to craft our backup plan. I'm going to find our backup number 10 when he inevitably goes to Turkey or he goes to somewhere else. I've got our backup plan rocking and rolling, buddy. You do you. And I'm going to find a player who might actually want to come here.
To be clear, there are many offers on the table for him at the moment. He's weighing his options between many different places. It always feels like if we ever get a name, there's a cloud around that name for some reason. If they are considering DC United, they are damaged goods in some way. That has been the case for now. We're getting players that you've never heard of. They can come here and there's not anything wrong with them. They're not busted in any kind of way. But if you know who they are already, they hit somebody with their car, something happened. They don't come here. They don't come here clean. So obviously, I don't really care so much about the doping. He served time. I don't care about that at all. But he is a player that's not played in quite a while. He's a player that obviously where this team is right now, he walks in easily. He's the best player that's been on the team and all, even in like by like some stretch, by quite a large margin. But I'm just wondering if we're willing to spend that much money, how much better would Paul Pogba coming off of this suspension, off of this break, be than Kevin De Bruyne? How much more would Kevin De Bruyne cost? I mean, like if we're playing in this space now, then let's open it up. Like the world is much larger if we're willing to pay 10, 12, 13, $15 million to transfer. There's lots of options there. You get some exciting young players with that spot. I still don't think Paul Pogba at this point, at 33 or 32? He's 32. I don't, with this long break and sort of maybe if he was still at Manchester United, maybe if Manchester United were still good and still one of the biggest clubs in the world, which I'm going to hate on them right now and say they're not, then like that would sell some tickets. That gets some butts in the door. I don't really see Paul Pogba selling season tickets to this club. I don't. And if that's the goal, like if you're going to get a marquee name and a marquee name is somebody you put on the marquee, I don't know. Yeah.
And what I will say, I don't even really care about that. I want players to come in here and win. I think this team is tired. And I think Jason Anderson said it best when he said, yeah, they're trying to basically replicate. They're trying to find 2018. It's like the high. They're trying to hit that 2018 high. Where like they brought a player in the summer. They took a team and it sort of completed the rebuild and they went on this magical run to make the playoffs and vibes were great and fantastic. Every single game was fun to watch. And it's just like you've committed this idea like we're going to do this properly this time. And then to have this like shiny little toy that you're going to go chasing. Not that like, and the problem is like, sure, I do think Paul Pogba, if I look at his talent, he's a center midfielder. He's a center attacking midfielder. He's a chance creator. He's a goal scorer. He's been a very, as his time, he was like a very much an elite talent in this league. Same with like Kevin De Bruyne. I think Kevin De Bruyne would be a better fit than Paul Pogba just because he's been playing higher level soccer. I do think he's a fit because this team needs a chance creating number 10. He would solve a lot of chance creating problems with this team. It's just a matter of like, does that baggage outweigh it? And he hasn't played for several months. Like he could come here and just think he's going to take it in a walk and it's not going to go well for him. We've seen it time and time again. We've seen it with Marco Reus, who's struggled immensely coming from Germany. Like there are players that don't take it seriously. And that would be my biggest fear with a player like Paul Pogba. So that being said, I think this is extremely low opportunity or extremely low chance this happens.
I just now switched how I feel about this as we're talking about it because this team is likely to be very uninteresting to me for the rest of the season as currently constructed. I really want this to happen now. I've changed my mind. Please sign this player. It will be very interesting. It will be very notable and interesting to watch this player come back into his own and like find himself in MLS after playing for Juventus after being popped for testosterone. I think that would be interesting if nothing else. I think if we're talking about how do we make this team better in 2026, maybe not the move, but I'm just trying to get through this year. It's already April and I'm like, just give me some joy. This would be some joy. So we're going to be a split podcast on this. I want it. Give it to me.
Chase Jones Nola says, I don't hate kicking the tires on anybody, but this would need to be on top of another big move that is likely to pan out. That big move's not happening. They have one DP they can sign. This would be it. This would literally be it. And we'll get to some other questions. I just want to see if there's any sort of Pogba related questions or concerns.
I think there's going to be like a day lag for takes on this because I think people are slowly digesting it.
Here's one. If Pogba comes, where do you think he ultimately lands on the scale of French players for DC?
I like this one.
I'd say he could go above Safin Jafal. I'd say 28, 30 games.
Are you sure? Because you liked him a lot of the time. I feel like maybe it'll be a little struggle for him to get there. It's hard to say.
What, for 30 games? You think he?
Oh, the question was number of games played.
I think that's what it was more about. I think that's what we're about.
Well, I hope so. Let's see.
I think that's where he's just going off games played. So, like, I mean, maybe he's doing a ranking, but like of talent, I don't know. It's kind of a silly question. This is from Brendan Cartwright, by the way.
Of course. So it's. I think he just wrote this so he could write Simon Lefebvre because he was a DC United draftee that never played. So I think that's why he wanted to do that. Sebastian Letou, also storied DC United striker.
I literally posted him. And I was like, "You made that one up. You made that first one up.
It's real." He played for Loudoun. He was the French guy that was like 7 feet tall. He was the super tall goalie. That's all I remember about him. I listen. It's interesting. It's more interesting than getting beat 3-0 by Philly again. It's more interesting than having Ted Pietro come back here and try to wallop up on us. You think he'll start? You think Ted starts as for the revenge game, or they probably bring him off the bench in the second half? He's healthy. He's made sub appearances.
Yeah, he's made sub appearances. He hasn't, to my I haven't seen, and I admit I have not been following Colorado as much as I can, and I've not been seeing how he's been playing. But my estimation, he hasn't done too much to really write home about. And they're also a really talented team that has a lot of talented players, so it's going to be hard for him to break through.
You got to imagine if you had said to your own brain, he's being sent to Colorado where he will be surrounded by a better team that's more successful on the field with better players. I don't think you would have thought that was possible or true, but we are.
He did not make the 18, by the way, in the last game.
So they better put him on the plane. Wait, is it in Denver or is it in Commerce City or here? It's here, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's in DC. Yeah.
All right. They better put him on the plane.
I think DC's going to bounce. I think DC's actually going to bounce back and win that game just because.
I hope so.
You hope so, but you're the one out here predicting a hat trick for Ted Pietro.
DC United could win 4-3. I didn't say that. I didn't speculate the other side of how that had to go. I just want the revenge game for him. He can lose. I don't care about the Rapids. I mean, they don't have Jonathan Lewis anymore, so I have no dog in the fight.
Fair enough.
Jonathan Lewis playing somewhere in England, I think. All right, so let's talk about the awesome 3-0 loss that DC United faced, going to their favorite field to play at all in not Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. What's the name of the city? Why can't I remember the name of the city that's not Philadelphia?
Either.
It's like Casper. It's like a very short. Anyway, they went there and they got beat again. They went with a 5-man backline once again, which I think we're going to see that. I think Troy is committed to that. He saw it work in New York, and he's like, all right, we're going to stick with this for a while.
I mean, yeah, they lost 3-0. So maybe you'll see a change. I don't know. I think this is definitely where Barraza kind of showed he's been sort of excellent through these past couple games, and even in losses, he's looked good. He's made some saves, and this was a game where I think he maybe showed why he wasn't able to hold on to the starting job in NYCFC, because not a great game from him. I think I said this, this is, and this is where going in, we talked about the game and then we would let it into elite talent, but John decided he wanted to ruin.
I ruined it.
He ruined it, but it's fine. It's fine. You're right. I didn't write it down. It was a little 20
busy. Minutes in. People have they're listening to the New York Times Daily now, I think.
But back to my point. This is what the lack of elite talent does. This is a loss. This type of 3-0 loss, which is not a 3-0 loss where the team just gets played off the field, they are just dominated relentlessly. Philly had some chances. They were the better side. They deserved a 3-0 win. But it was not this game was 2-0 in the first half and then there was a third goal. This is a game where when you don't have elite talent and you are unable to actually press the teams and control the ball and generate chances and keep them in your own attacking half, this is kind of what you get. You get sort of whittled down. Your team really isn't able to threaten. You kind of lose. You maybe gain a couple chances. You get a good spell of play. There was a good spell of play from about minute 15, 16 after the goal till about the 40th, really through halftime. And then it kind of all came out. DC goes down 2-0 and the balloon just pops and they're never really able to generate too many other chances after that. This is what happens. You don't have elite talent. I said, I don't think that the defense as a whole, and this gets talked about a lot, is bad. I think they have an average talent level that if this team had better attackers and was able to put teams back in their own defense, you would see this team having to kind of almost be frustrated with the sort of wasted chances, lack of creating chances, and then that's when they give up goals. And yeah, it's what this team is right now. They had finally had maybe a secondary type attacker who kind of had a breakthrough in Peglo, and he got hurt and he's out. And suddenly you're stuck with Jacob Murrell, who's not a bad player. He's fine. It's a lot of just above average to average MLS players out there. And these are the types of games you get when you have other teams with better talent and more elite talent that can sort of take advantage of the opportunities.
Yeah. I mean, I was just looking at Jacob Glasnow's contract, seeing how much he cost after his worldie against East United. I was like, how much did they pay for this guy, this Norwegian player? $700,000. He was the captain at age 25 of the Union when they were still very good, and they're still good, but when they were better. He's making $1 million a year. Is that a contract that DC United could have signed? You think like that's a how much did we pay for like less than that, but not by a whole bunch? I think from a transfer fee from Scotland. It's just one of those things. Like we talked before about Philly's ownership and about sort of them being realistic about who they were, and it's not like they are making moves that are beyond our financial reach. They just make better ones. I mean, granted, they've signed all of the Sullivans in the Philadelphia area, Chester, Pennsylvania, by the way. That's the location.
Chester.
Other than them signing like a lineage of players that have worked out, they're not making big splashes on the transfer market. And sometimes they have players and they sell them to the Columbus Crew midseason without a replacement because they don't care, because they're fine. They'll manage. That's the frustrating thing, right? Like, I think that's where you start to evaluate the general manager, evaluate choices like they're not if a team is that much better than you and all they're doing are things that you could do. It's not like Atlanta United where you're paying $25 million for your DPs and writing off players every year if they don't work out. This is a team that's operating on a similar budget in a smaller market. Take that, Philly. I'm calling you a smaller market. So that's where you really start to like really look inward and start to question yourself about like what, and also Jim Curtin's like available. Like, so if you want to like steal things from Philadelphia Union, like there's ways you could steal them. There's who's their GM before? Ernie Stewart was their GM for a while, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but I think that might have been a while ago. That might have been like 2 GMs ago. But all I'm saying is, like, you know, Mackay has his contract. He's going to continue to make moves. He's got another window. But like, it hurts, especially to look at the Union in a longing way, because there's no reason we couldn't be them, because they have nothing. They have nothing special that we don't have.
I was looking at I guess Todd McDermott is now the president of the team. Ernst Tanner is the sporting director. So he's the guy. He's the guy making all the soccer decisions in the club. He's the one who has set this identity about building through the academy. This is something I wanted this team, and I rave this team should do that. The talent is here. Everything is here for this team to do that. They just don't do it to the effect that would make them successful, and they're getting left behind. We could be the Philly Union. Philly Union made it to an MLS Cup final. They didn't win it. They came very, very close to winning it. But when have we, and a lot of people, you know, a lot of fans have actually gotten upset about that. They almost wanted the team, you know, they wanted the team to do more. And I think we would all take that. We would all take the ability for, we would all take that ability just to be competitive for once, to have something to be excited about with this team. So yeah, it's really stark to watch this team, just time and time again. You know, and now we just talked about the idea of signing Paul Pogba. You're all for it. Just for fun, not for soccer reasons, just for fun. And to me, even if it works, it would be a massive disappointment, because the question would then be, where does that leave your team? Where does that leave your team in 2 years? Are we right back where we were? Like we're just doing, it's like it would feel like we were just doing the same thing over and over again. It's like abandoning any sort of rebuild and just going for what fits. I mean, I really don't. And really, from Jason's perspective, I understand fans are upset. Fans have been upset for years at this point. Yeah, for years. That house has been lit on. The fandom is a burnt out shell of a house in Detroit. Like there's nothing else to light on fire. Like if you were worried about fan revolt, you would have been paying attention 6 years ago. Like that ship has sailed. So to your point, if you're going to commit to something, commit to it. You're not going to lose anything else. You've already said you're going to give season ticket holders a discount when you miss the playoffs. Like we're done. When already dropping the win word? Yeah, I'm for sure dropping the win. By the way, Ernst Tanner. This is just like an interesting. Ernst Tanner, their GM, has 24 years technical experience with 3 Bundesliga teams or 2 Bundesliga teams and a team in Austria. Mackay was the assistant GM at Nashville and a player agent. And their like experience gets you things. Like experience in different markets gets you things that you don't have sometimes. So we bought into this like young guns, young Turks, like manager building his way up, got a little bite at New York, but prior to that had built his way up through USL. Assistant GM, part of the decision-making team at Nashville, a team that, I mean, did never win anything to note of, but certainly had achieved beyond its expectations, at least early on in it. So that is the avenue they went down, and the Paul Pogba move, to your point, is like the antithesis of that idea. Like if you're gonna hire those players and sell everyone on it, then you gotta at least go 2 years on it, full 2 years for you. Yeah, and that's the frustrating part. You went down this road, you made this commitment, you've sold everybody, or you've attempted to sell everybody on the idea that you are going to be different. This is different. We're doing this rebuild. Mackay is a young GM, but he's a very, he's a smart guy. I think he's going to be brilliant. He's going to do a lot of good things. We're putting a full faith behind him. You have the whole interview between him and Jason Levian, which again, coming now seems very, very strange when you think about it and all this Paul Pogba stuff. But it really felt like it's like, okay, now we're gonna do this right this time. Like we're gonna have to clear out a year of salary, but we're gonna do this right. And I haven't agreed with every one of Mackay's moves, but I mean, I did look at all of them and I said, well, this feels still like a GM that is trying to really think about long term and think about building. That's why, they didn't go out. People saying, why didn't they go out and get someone at deadline day? It doesn't make any sense. Well, I'm like, well, the summer window is the more fruitful window. You have to think they have something in the cards. Now we know why, is because they didn't want to sign somebody until Paul Pogba had been deciding. So, yeah, I mean, it just colors everything in a different light. But you've sold everybody on this idea. And yeah, it hasn't gone well this year. They also are 5 points out of a playoff spot. Let's be real. Like, this is MLS. Like, you look at this team in May and June last year. They were absolutely awful. They were winless. They didn't win an entire game, I think, through May or June. And yet they still managed to put together a run towards the end of the season that vaulted them, where they controlled their destiny heading into the final game of the playoffs. Like, this is MLS. So I think this is like, to be just like abandoning everything. Like, you got to like sit through the noise sometimes if you're going to do something like this. And yeah, it might not work out. But I would at least feel better knowing that at least they committed to something and saw it through. And yeah, it didn't work out. Okay, now you maybe relook at it and try something else. And there are opportunities when sometimes maybe that rebuild comes a little bit late. But if you just kind of sit here and say, nope, we're going Paul Pogba, then it feels to me like you're saying you aren't patient enough to wait. You're still trying to chase like this high or this ability. And I don't know. It just feels like this is going to end poorly. And I wonder, are there players that now with this whole Paul Pogba situation, are there players that maybe were sitting there that now can't move, or that maybe Mackay was looking at signing? You recall that there were players that DC ownership had brought to Wayne Rooney, and he was like, no, I want Ravel Morrison. That Ravel Morrison is a better player than all of these people.
He'll be the best player in MLS.
Yeah, and that's what it feels like, to be honest. It feels very similar. It's like how many, and we'll never know for sure, but like does Mackay have players and agencies contacted of, number 10s and attacking midfielders that he thinks will be good for this league? But now like you got this whole Pogba noise. Now that's out in the public too. So, like, what are those agents thinking that have been actually talking and having conversations with DC thinking? I don't know, man. I don't know. It feels very rushed, and I don't know. I don't know what the future is. I still think this is unlikely to happen. It sounds like he's going to make his decision, I think, in a month. So that'll be, before the window even opens. This could all be for nothing, and he could not sign, and then Mackay will have like players actually in the backup that he'll go out and get. So we'll see what happens.
We have the second worst goal differential in all of MLS next to the Galaxy. It's not great. Giving up 22 goals. That's a lot of goals through not that many games, through only 10 games. Do you think, we talked before about sort of like the levels of the team. How do you think they're going to do against Charleston in the Open Cup? Do you think they're certainly not going to dog walk them, are they? I mean, followed Charleston this year in the championship, but do you think that if they fielded a Benteke-less first A lineup, all the best players except Benteke, how do you foresee that going? Based on,
I mean, you're going to have some hungry players for DC that maybe are looking to break themselves into the lineup. I mean, I think it's difficult. It's extremely difficult to say in these Open Cup games. I could see it going poorly.
How did the Kickers game go? It was a 1-0 victory for DC United in the Open Cup when you came up, and was that what it was?
Yeah, it was something.
And it was and it was kind of a late garbage goal.
Yeah. They're fourth in the USL Championship. They're on they've won 4 out of their last 5 games.
I got a bad feeling is what I'm trying to tell you about. I'm going to go see it. I've got a bad feeling.
Yeah, I have a bad feeling about a lot of things, but somehow like DC does manage, like in these seasons where they're extremely poor, they do seem to like pull themselves together and like actually make a run in like the Open Cup. Like that's happened fairly consistently when they're historic, when they're really bad like they are this year. So, by the way, worth mentioning, Joao Peglo, I think he might be out for a few weeks as well. Hits keep on coming, but Jackson Hopkins might be close to returning. So
there we go. That's like for like, man. I think I no drop off.
And Karamoko also got an appearance, created a chance, didn't do much else. And one last thing, I think we did get a question from Todd Dudge about Peltola being in the doghouse. I really do have to ask Troy Lesane. I'm like, really, Brendan Cervinia? That's the guy we're gonna stick with after all this time?
He must practice like dog S at this point. It has to be that. What else could it be? Or he's like got a bad attitude, but that doesn't seem like it.
I really don't get it. I would love to have some sort of breakdown, someone talking about something, because I don't get it. I don't understand. What is Cervania doing that is so infinitely better than what Peltola or Borisy now brought to this team?
They both. This is like to me. It's like this is like coach mutiny to have the players brought in and be who they were touted to be, and then just be like resolutely refusing to play them, including a player as a free agent like filler, and just keep playing them over and over again. That is a coach being stubborn to do that. One way or the other. It's either about the city at his disposal, which is the Hernan Lozano move, or about these players aren't practicing the way I like them to do, which would be more of a Ben Olsen move, where we get a Drew Skendrich or Ulysses Segura playing a lot. So like practice players playing really well, they're going to get minutes. So it's one of those two things. I don't think it's that those two players suck more than the other options, and particularly for a team that's conceded 22 goals, no one's good. No one's doing a good job. So explain, please. I don't know.
I don't know. I really don't know. I am thinking that Peltola might very well be sold this summer.
You got to, for both parties at this point.
You know what? To be honest, it would not be the worst move in the world, because you got him as a free agent, paid a year of salary, year and a half of salary. You get $2 million for him. You probably came out pretty well, and that wouldn't even be a large fee.
Now, on the other hand, was a larger cost and has really taken a hit in value, I think.
Yeah, I have to feel like there is some sort of exit move that Peltola is looking to make, or there are discussions with other teams that have already been happening with him, because he's not even first off the bench anymore. It's like it's Cervinia, and then now comes off the bench.
If there are any family members listening who want to get into our DMs and tell us what's going on, you know who you are. Please feel free to do so. We won't mention it. Did you see that Andy Nahr had 3 assists for Nashville?
Yeah.
Someone posted that on Reddit. They're like, well, good thing we don't want any injury damaged goods associated in Nashville. Unrelated, how's Rendell Leal doing? How's his performance going so far this year? I was like, oop, yep. Well, I'm glad Nahar's playing. I'm glad he's doing well. I want him winning. And he's doing that. 16 points through 10 games for Nashville. Good for them.
A 7-2 thumping. BJ Callahan versus Greg Berhalter. The stories and the memes kind of write themselves off that game. I will say, I feel like Chicago is still. I'm wondering, like, if there's some after this game. Like, is Greg on the hot seat now in Chicago? Because this is an organization that is like desperate to win, and they are now winless in their last 4. They had a nice little run there in the middle of the season after the DC draw. And then they have just cratered.
Points. To your point, they're 1 win out of the playoffs.
Yeah, they are.
MLS is dumb. MLS is too long. The playoffs are too generous. You should be very sad if you're in this position that we're in. But we're just like, hey man, give me 3 good games. We're right back in the hunt.
And this is what I get, man. This is what I like. The team is not great. They're not awful. I don't think they're like truly the worst team in the league. That goes to Montreal and Toronto right now. They are equally worse than this off. Really, Montreal is just completely dead underwater. 0 wins, 3 draws, 7 losses, a -10 goal differential.
I'm just glad to have given them one of their draws. That's really what I'm happy about, that we were able to help them out. We accounted for 30% of their points for the season in that game.
But you talk about a mess over there. It's just like the Paul Pogba thing is frustrating, because I'm like, dude, just you literally just have to like wait this out, get to your summer window. The team doesn't make the playoffs. Okay, if you can show that something productive can come of this, trust in your GM that you hire. Don't just go for the splashy picture. Player evaluation on this team sucks, according to Timothy. I think we've seen some good players. We've seen some good players come out of this. I think this is like any team taking swings on certain players you're going to miss. And they've missed on, I think, some of the crucial positions they needed to improve, which are for right now, goalkeeper and center defense, because Kai Rawls has not been a massive improvement. And in goal, Barraza has been okay, not a massive improvement. Kim Joo-hong has looked like a 21-year-old keeper, so that was a little bit of a gamble that didn't pay off. But I think, Joao Pedro looks good. I still think Schnegg and Herrera have been pretty good players. And then, of course, your other issue, too, has been the center midfield. So there's been it's been just like a mixed bag, but you just don't have that elite talent to actually overcome some of those deficiencies. And so it makes those deficiencies much, much brighter when there isn't elite talent to kind of cover that.
If only you had a Paul Pogba in the midfield pulling the strings.
Oh, shut up.
Being an elite talent.
All right. I think that's enough, DC. We want to talk Spirit.
Yeah, let's go from good news to good news. The Washington Spirit finally the injuries have caught up, at least in this weekend, to DC or into the Spirit, getting a 3-0 first half beatdown by Gotham. Just sort of not covered themselves in glory here. Poor marking, really wasteful in front of goal. There were 3 or 4 probably 0.8 XG opportunities for this team that they squandered. It was just tough. The first, they got behind early in the 6th minute or the 8th minute, and then conceded a penalty not that long after that. And then allowed a goal off of really bad marking on a corner. So that's, I think, an Audi Field contagion situation more than anything else. Manager got a red card, won't be there next week. So just sort of, when it all goes bad, it all goes bad. Good, the little bit of good news you might be able to, the rainbow in the stormy day is Corey Bethune gets on the field, looks and creates a chance, in a very, very limited opportunity. Ashley Hatch is back on the field. Hal Hirschfeld, apparently, from people who are watching the team more closely than I am, are saying she's very, very, very close to a return. That's good. If Casey Kruger gets back, that would be another thing. Great. We've been talking about this team basically juggling chainsaws and still managing to not cut their arms off for a while. And Gotham's a good team. And sometimes it's not going to go your way. I don't see this as being a turn where this team should start to be concerned. I think they've been so far, handling their business, and they just have to get back to it next week and hope that this was a hiccup rather than anything serious.
I think when you invested probably as much as they did in Orlando and got a win, you kind of drop a little bit. Maybe you get a little complacent, and you kind of think you think you're invincible. You're like, oh, we're invincible. We can manage through anything. And then you have a team that just comes in and kind of humbles you a little bit. They came off Gotham came off a bad 4-0 loss, or I think a bad loss I think they lost to Portland, if I recall correctly. So they came off a fairly poor loss. Yeah, it was 4-1 loss to Portland, and so they were maybe a little angry. So maybe this will be some motivation when Washington goes play Angel City next. I mean, maybe this will be a little bit of a kick in the rear to get them going. Like you said, players coming back. Hal Hirschfeld coming back is great. They've missed her dearly.
If that happens, I think it's happening. I hope so. Fingers crossed.
In that center mid, yeah, they've missed her in that center midfield. Corey Bethune coming back really changes the complexion of this team just from a chance creation perspective. I think the real key, like you've talked about, is getting Lacey Santos, them to play together, because if they can do that, it's now even more important now that Trinity Rodman's out, especially too. So yeah, definitely this was a case. Injuries caught up with them, and they got punished by a team, a very, very good team. You had Esther just torching the Spirit in this game, and yeah, it's unfortunate that's at home too. I think you always want to win in front of that.
Berger was a great goalkeeper. I think she had some really great saves. There was the play that the goal that should have happened in probably the 85th minute was a play started by Croy where Rebecca Bernal plays a give and go with her and tries to score near post, and it should have been the net, and it was saved. A couple other, SP Morgan had an opportunity, wide open opportunity from inside the 6, had time to settle. The goalkeeper was out to sea. She had time to settle it. She just one time to hit it over the crossbar by 10 feet and hit and punch the floor because she was super mad. But yeah, I'm not going to lose sleep over this whatsoever. This team is third with the injuries that they have should make you feel good, should make you feel confident in the way the season's going to go. Angel City's got 2 wins and 8. This is another home game. You like your chances. You like your chances for this team to right the ship, potentially again with more players coming back into the fold. This team will be better once again when their depth is all players that are actually on the roster and are not injury replacements. That will be when there are good players that are not getting minutes because there's not enough minutes to go around, then you're going where you need to go. And we're almost there.
All right, man. I think that's going to do it. Thank you guys so much for listening. Sorry, I did not sound as energetic and lively as I should on a podcast.
COVID or no, for a 6-0 net aggregate defeat for the weekend, I think you gave more than enough.
The Pogba news maybe helped a little bit with
for sure. Thank God. Thank you. Whether or not it's a good idea or not, thank you. See, that's what I was talking about. It's interesting. It's good. It's interesting.
We didn't get to a Discord question. DC, last question. DC, would you have Pogba or next pro team?
Oh, that's actually kind of a good question.
Yeah.
Well, for what I just talked about, quite obviously, Pogba. The next pro team is probably the better move. It would be. Yeah. I think it would be substantially less expensive to have a next pro team than Paul Pogba.
Yeah, I got next pro team. Give me more Griffin Yowls. Give me more Gavin Turners. I'll take a Gavin Turner getting minutes and showing his stuff.
Give me some hope. Sell me some hope for 2029.
Or over Paul Pogba. All right, folks, that's going to do it. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll catch you guys next week. Vamos.